It was a Tuesday morning in New York. The kind of morning where the city feels like it's holding its breath before the day explodes into motion. The streets were still damp from an overnight drizzle, steam curled up from subway grates, and the air smelled faintly of roasted chestnuts from a cart that had somehow been there since 6 a.m. I was in my usual corner of a small coffee shop in Midtown, the kind of place where the barista knows your name, but still spells it wrong on the cup. My cappuccino sat in front of me, a luxury I justified by telling myself it was cheaper than therapy. The foam art was a little crooked that day, a heart that looked like it had been through something. My laptop screen glowed with a dozen unread emails, most of them starting with "just following up," the polite corporate way of saying, "Why haven't you done this yet?" I was halfway through deleting spam when I saw him. He walked in like he owned the place, not in an arrogant way, but in that quiet, self-assured way of someone who knows exactly where they're going. An old acquaintance from my first job. Same easy smile, same quick stride. The only thing different was the suit, not the kind you grab off the rack during a sale. This was tailored, the kind of suit that says, "I don't check the price tag, I check the fit." We caught each other's eye, and in seconds he was at my table. We exchanged the usual pleasantries, the "how have you been?" and "we should catch up" that New Yorkers say even when they don't mean it. But this time, he meant it. He told me he was in the neighborhood, meeting potential investors for a new venture, a platform for short, vertical videos. "Think YouTube," he said, "but faster, more addictive, built for phones." I remember raising an eyebrow. In 2010 something, YouTube was already the king of online video. The idea of people watching strangers dance or lip sync into their phones felt absurd. I pictured teenagers in their bedrooms, filming themselves to an audience of maybe 3 friends and a bored cousin. He needed early investors. Minimum buy-in, $10,000. I had $12,000 in my savings account. It had taken me years to build that cushion. Years of saying no to vacations, of cooking at home instead of ordering takeout, of wearing the same winter coat 3 seasons in a row. That money wasn't just numbers on a screen. It was my safety net, my sleep at night fund. The thought of risking almost all of it made my stomach knot. I could already hear the voice in my head. What if it fails? What if you lose everything? So I told him I couldn't. He nodded, said he understood, and left me with his card. Here is the thing about moments like that. They don't feel like moments. They feel like background noise. You don't hear the click of the door closing on an opportunity. Not until years later, when you realize it was the sound of your future walking away. Life went on. I kept freelancing, picking up projects that paid the bills, but never quite lit me up inside. I moved apartments twice, upgraded my laptop, even splurged on a leather jacket that made me feel like I had my life together. But the hustle never stopped. And that $12,000, it stayed in my account, growing at the speed of a snail on vacation. I told myself I was earning interest, but in reality, inflation was quietly eating it alive. Fast forward 5 years, same coffee shop, same corner table, same cappuccino, though now it cost $1.50 more. The city outside had changed. Everyone was glued to their phones, thumbs flicking upward in a hypnotic rhythm. On the screens, endless loops of short videos, people dancing, cooking, pranking their friends, lip-syncing to songs I didn't recognize. The company, TikTok, my old acquaintance, a multimillionaire, that $10,000 investment would have been worth over $5 million. But here is the twist. I don't regret not making the investment. Not exactly. What I regret is why I didn't. It wasn't logic. It wasn't research. It was fear. Fear of losing what I had, even though what I had wasn't much. Fear is expensive. It charges interest. And the longer you let it run your decisions, the more it costs you. I started thinking about all the times fear had been in the driver's seat. The job offers I didn't take because they felt too risky. The trips I didn't book because what if something comes up? The relationships I didn't pursue because what if it doesn't work out? Fear had been my financial advisor, my career coach, my life planner. and it had a terrible track record. That day, I made myself a promise. I wouldn't let fear be the deciding vote anymore. I set up a separate account, not for emergencies, not for bills, but for bold moves. Money I could risk without flinching. I called it my fear fund. At first, it was small. $50 here, $100 there. But over time, it grew. And something interesting happened. The more I contributed to it, the more I started noticing opportunities. It's like when you buy a red car, and suddenly you see red cars everywhere. The opportunities had always been there. I just hadn't been tuned in. One day, a friend mentioned a small local business looking for partners. Normally, I would have smiled, nodded, and changed the subject. But this time, I asked questions. I ran the numbers. I took a calculated risk. It didn't make me millions, but it doubled my investment in a year. More importantly, it proved something. I could take a chance and survive. Opportunities rarely arrive gift-wrapped. They show up in coffee shops, in casual conversations, in ideas that sound a little ridiculous, and they leave quietly if you're not ready. Fear will disguise itself as wisdom. It will tell you to wait until you're ready, to protect what you have, to play it safe. But safety is often just a slow path to regret. The truth is, you'll never feel ready. The numbers will never line up perfectly. The stars will never all align. The people who change their lives aren't the ones who wait for certainty. They're the ones who prepare enough to take the leap when the door cracks open. Build your own fear fund. Train yourself to recognize when hesitation is just fear in a nice suit. And when that moment comes, step through the door. Because the cost of saying no isn't just the money you might have made. It's the life you might have lived.